The illiterates of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Alvin Toffler, the renowned futurist, had said this somewhere in mid of 20th century, and we, the citizens of today, exemplify it very well. Hi everyone, this is कुशाग्र. मैं ग्रेजुएशन से इंजीनियर और पेशे से प्राइवेट फ्रीलांसिंग कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल और अब सरकारी नौकरी का एक्सपीरियंस रखता हूँ. ये सब मैं इसलिए बता रहा हूँ क्योंकि आज मैं जो कंसेप्ट डिस्कस करने वाला हूँ वो है सिटीज़न 2.0. ये साइंस फिक्शन का कोई सिटीज़न का नया वर्जन नहीं है. ये वो है जो आज के टाइम में हम हैं या हो रहे हैं या हो सकते हैं. Since you are still listening to the video, it is you, the literate citizen of India, whom I want to talk to. This is about civics, one of the most disliked subject of our school times. तो एल्विन टॉफलर की जो कोट मैंने स्टार्टिंग में बोली, आज उसी को हम डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं कि हमें क्या लर्न, रीलर्न और अनलर्न करना है. This citizen 2.0 may not be interested in politics at all, but is undoubtedly interested in day-to-day decisions of the government, which influences one and all. The literate citizen may not have interest in politics, but interest in polity. There's a difference. Plato had famously said that the price good men pay for being indifferent to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. We all must have listened, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja, but in democracy, it's the reverse of it. As the public, so would be the government. You know, democracy has rightly been criticized by many social and political thinkers for it being the tyranny of the ignorant. That means too many ignorant people can come together and influence the government, which is based on popular choice, to make the law which may not be logical. So, the citizens of a country should be educated enough or literate enough to learn what is actually required. They should ask the right questions to the government or the government officials. The Indian polity is represented by a parliamentary form of government. That means it has three organs: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Legislature means the parliament. The Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are parts of it. They are the ones who formulate the laws. Then comes the executive. Executive is a part of the parliament. That is, they are the people who are elected as government. Apart from this elected or temporary executive, there is a permanent executive, which is represented by the bureaucracy or the officialdom of our country. The third organ is the judiciary, which interprets and adjudicates upon the laws made by the parliament. Now, the same structure is replicated bottom in a vertical manner in the states and then up to villages as well. So India has a three-tier polity. So when we call a government, we are not just referring to one individual or a political party, rather a very heterogeneous entity which percolates from metropolitans to village level, spread across geography of India and influencing the social and political life of each individual. Today, in the era of information overload, we do have a lot of information circulating throughout the social media. But as Einstein had said, that information is not knowledge. We today have a lot of information, but not everyone has the capacity or capability to convert it into knowledge. The citizens of a country have fundamental rights which are guaranteed by the Constitution. That means if these fundamental rights are violated, then the person, that is the citizen, could move to courts, including the Supreme Court. However, from 1990s, the government also came up with right-based approach. That is, apart from fundamental rights, several other rights were provided to the citizen of India, which were in the form of right to information, right to work, right to education, and many more. However, as emphasized by many legal luminaries and academicians, the focus now should move on to the fundamental duties as well. Polity, or the way in which government affairs are managed, has been written and discussed upon since at least three millenniums, wherein we have studied the thoughts of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Chanakya, up to Hobbes, Machiavelli, Max Weber, or Karl Marx. Though many of the fundamental principles of these thinkers have stayed relevant for most of the history of humankind, there have been significant changes due to the ethics, culture, religious changes, and economic or financial developments of different times. Similarly, we currently standing on the node of fourth industrial revolution have seen a lot of changes within our generation itself. So it is essential that we do incorporate the changes in the way we see the polity itself. The Citizen 2.0 may not find ideological clarity as we read in books and as we see in practical life. The concepts of communism, socialism, capitalism have all mixed, and those notions may not hold relevance in 21st century. We, the literate citizens 2.0 of the 21st century, may not be able to have an ideological clarity based on definitions of 19th century. So we may not be able to extract the direction or the accountability from government as to where we are headed as a polity. The Citizen 2.0 should not fight for a political leader or any political party. Rather, we should stand for self and those below us. The citizen should abide with morality. Without civic morality, communities perish. And without personal morality, their existence has no value. We, the Citizen 2.0, need to envisage how we can make a better society. Eleanor Roosevelt has very beautifully stated, great minds discuss ideas, mediocre minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. A few years ago, a friend had asked me, what do you think are the three biggest problems in India? At that time, I had thought of three problems. The first one was education. Education in terms of academic learning, uncritical teachings about religion or society, even financial illiteracy, and also the ways of evaluation in education. The second problem I could think of at that time was improper public administration. There is shortage of personnel, be it doctors, policemen, teachers, sanitation workers, and many more. There are skewed salary structures. We know that sanitation workers, teachers, policemen are not paid on par the value they give to a society. Similarly, there are many other professions where placements are not adequate. For instance, the engineering students who pursue specialization in streams like electronics, mechanical, or civil do not get adequate job opportunities within the nation. Most of them end up serving in software companies. Similarly, the number of seats and medical colleges are very few as compared to the number of doctors required. So is the shortage of judges. So this is a major problem. But the third and the most crucial problem I could think of at that time was irresponsible citizenry. Believe me, it is still the biggest problem. I do not say that we need to be activists or try to change the society like Raja Ram Mohan Roy or Mahatma Gandhi, but at least we can contribute a little bit of what we can. We, the Citizen 2.0, do not limit ourselves from thinking out of the box, but when it comes to implementation, we rarely dare to take things in our hand. In the popular form of government that we have in a democracy, it is up to the citizens to demand reason and justice. Unless right questions are asked, the government will never be in a position to make good laws. The Citizen 2.0 should be more responsible and should not be influenced by catchy headlines or high decibel debates on so-called 24-hour news channels. On social media as well, there should be constructive criticism. We should respond to the questions raised and not react to the point of view presented by different people. There's a difference between respond and react. We should have acceptance to diversity of thoughts, and we should also listen to views of others. As Annie Besant had famously said, that refusal to believe till logic is given is a rational position. However, denial of everything beyond our limited experience is absurd. So, while the Citizen 2.0 should have emphasis on fundamental duties and progressive discussions, we should also respect the beliefs and values of others. The constructive criticism on social media can be a way forward. Once the citizen is aware and educated, it would also propel and compel the government to bring in the desired changes that we have been waiting for since years. From my experience in a public enterprise, I would say that a government organization is at least 10 to 12 years lagging in terms of technology adoption as compared to their private counterparts. Firstly, the communication in government departments need to change. As of now, the inter-department and intra-department communications are very poor. Within an organization, there are no emails at the clerical level, and the head office and field relationship is also not good. That means if within a department a head office comes up with a rule, the field offices might not be aware of them. The problems at the field offices might not be known to the head office. Similarly, when we talk of intra-organization communication, we see that the circulars, letters, and notifications, etc., are not very clear. Thereby, it is required that a FAQ format of communication can be very helpful, wherein people who, the general public who gets to read these documents in public domain will also be aware of the rules and will also understand and have a better grasp of the rules they have to follow. The second thing the government needs to work upon is complexity. The complexity within the government department functioning, and this leads to chaos and anarchy in a lot of scenarios. For instance, contradictory circulars are issued by different offices or different departments of the same ministry. This leads to uncertainty in following of laws. Also, there is a jungle of laws. Useless laws often weaken the necessary laws. The third change that we need in our governance is finding and monitoring the balance between responsibility and accountability. At best, what the system does today is finding a scapegoat to put responsibility upon whenever any lapse is found. This post facto fixing of responsibility is done because clear accountability is not defined for each of the levels in a government hierarchy. This not only avoids people from taking initiatives but also makes it more easier and logical not to perform. Thereby, what we need is that modern accountability procedures should be adopted and new techniques should be taken by looking into the best practices within the nation and even outside the nation. The fourth crucial change that we need in our governance is upgradation of infrastructure, both physical and digital. In physical infrastructure, we need more schools, more medical colleges, more police stations, and better maintenance of government buildings. This should be accompanied with adequate salary structure of the personnel manning this infrastructure, not comparing the salaries with those of cricketers and film celebrities. In digital infrastructure, what we need is a better and efficient use of the software power that India has gained in the recent past. Not only should the government processes be automated up to a decent level, but also the use of data in policy making can help in improving the response of the government whenever a critical situation like the recent pandemic arises. As we saw recently, there was very little data with the government regarding the number of people commuting, regarding the shops in the vicinity, regarding the number of hospital beds, or many other such things. So if we have data in digitized format, a lot of data can be consolidated and policy making can be made more efficient and fast. In the end, I would like to conclude that the upcoming and brewing Citizen 2.0 is no more a hypothetical concept. We are gradually mutating into this newer version. The youth of today, the millennials, are much aware than probably the earlier generations. We do know how to file an RTI. We do know how to start an online petition. We can create awareness through our blogs, vlogs, and many other medium. Then we are more aware about the concerns in the society, be it those of religious or linguistic minorities, or be it those of women, the elderly, the children, the disabled, or the transgenders. We know great contributions can be made towards betterment of the society by making minor changes, often just at the level of the perceptions in our minds. We can reduce our carbon footprint. We can reduce our waste generation. We can reduce the efforts that we put in impressing the people whom we do not necessarily like. We are equally mesmerized by the Iron Man or Spidey as we are by the Mountain Man Maji. The current corona pandemic has shown us that superheroes may not necessarily come with iron suits or the spider webs. The real superheroes are doctors witnessing death and pain every day, the police personnel risking their own lives, the sanitation workers doing unthankful but essential service, or a mother who's balancing between kitchen and her work. The citizen 2.0 knows the secret. Gangadhar hi Shaktiman hai. I hope you can understand and link. Good day. Thank you Pallavi and the Samanvay team for having me and giving me an opportunity to vent out my thoughts. अभी तक सिर्फ पेपर पे लिखता था, पहली बार वीडियो के मीडियम से अपने थॉट्स शेयर करने का मौका मिला. थैंक यू.